Hello, Project Ultimate Lifers. Welcome back. Today we have Ryan Hughes, who's going to be talking about his experiences through life, struggles with ADHD, losing his father to cancer, and what he's up to now and how he's working to make an impact and to help improve people's lives. So, Ryan, how are you? And can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you and we got to this time, space, and reality?
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. So I'm Ryan Hughes. I'm a nurse practitioner. I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee. My mom was a registered nurse. My dad was a respiratory therapist. My sister became a nurse. So I became a diet aide as a junior in high school, and I worked that for like 7 years. Then I became a OR tech and CNA, and then I worked my way up. Around that time, my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and I was thinking, I already knew I wanted to go into medicine, but at that time I was thinking, okay, maybe oncology. Uh, Around that time, he passed away, and I realized I did not want to go into oncology at all. Um, the patients I saw reminded me of him, and I also just really did not agree with the conventional medicine model, especially in oncology. So there's no way that I could do that. So I ended up going to nursing school. And during that time, I was like in between, what am I going to do? Psychiatry, ER. And I ended up choosing psychiatry. I felt like that is where I was going to be able to make the biggest impact. There was a big need. I felt like that's what I would be best at. So that's what I did and became a mental health nurse and then mental health nurse practitioner. And uh, around that time, I was working as a nurse practitioner. I started my journey with functional medicine as a practitioner, and that's what I do now to help people get to the root cause of their issues.
Amazing. How would you say, so we all have a journey to get to where we are, right? How would you say your early experiences in life, so first of all, what were they? And then how did they kind of help shape who you are today?
You'll have to repeat that question because you glitched out.
Mm. So who we are today has a lot to do with where we came from, right? What were some of your early experiences in life, and how did that shape and mold who you are today?
Yeah. Well, growing up with ADHD, uh, that that definitely started an initial interest in, it was a time of, it definitely was not a time of uh, thriving. It was a time of surviving. So it was initial interest into brain health. Uh, and then growing up in a medical family, and then my dad dealing with cancer, my mom dealing with breast cancer while, uh, you know, dealing with my dad. So that was a lot. And just doing all that gave me the initial interest to enter medicine. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's great. Now, you talk about ADHD. So I feel like this is something that people talk about a lot, but, and we all kind of feel like we have it in some ways, but what were some symptoms or how did that look like in your life for you to know that you had ADHD and it's something that you experienced?
Early on, I had a lot of energy. It was really a lot of fun. I was class clown, I was the entertainer. Um, but that didn't last long. It in the school system, it just wasn't the right environment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had trouble focusing. I felt like I had to work three times as hard as the average person just to kind of keep up. And I really didn't learn that well in school, especially then, being on the medications, it was hard to find a therapeutic dose. I was diagnosed with ADHD. And I mean, as far as symptoms, trouble focusing, uh, I mean, people with ADHD need to be in a better environment than the school system. It's hard. I mean, I guess, most people have to do it, but my kids will be homeschooled, you know?
Yeah. And what were some of the things you were able to do as an adult to kind of get yourself to be able to focus or kind of create those conditions for you to be more successful in?
Well, it all started with, I think it originally started with exercise as a release, just dealing with, I mean, for a lot of the time I was over medicated, and that was a very uncomfortable situation. I mean, probably some of the hardest times of my life.
Mm.
So exercise became a release, and then I realized it was helpful for anxiety, dealing with depression and brain fog. And then from there, adding on the nutrition component made a massive difference. As I got into working out, then it's like, okay, I want to build my physique kind of thing. And then I realized it's so much more than that. I mean, really why I work out now is because of the mental health aspect of it. In my 20s, I was like, I wanted six pack abs and big muscles and all this stuff. And that was great. I did that. I built my dream body. But then I realized it was more about the cognitive aspect of it. So you start, eating healthy to build your physique. And I realized that, wow, this is really helping my cognitive health. And there's so much more to that. There's, you know, stress management, dealing with your emotional traumas, avoiding toxic relationships, getting the proper, optimizing your light environment, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. So
So,
you're really into brain health, and it's clearly obvious, as a functional practitioner, that this is something that you're interested in. How else does exercise impact brain health, or how else does our nutrition impact brain health? What is brain health? We hear about it a lot. How do you work with people to help them improve their brain health, to have the, effects that you just kind of described?
well, it's getting to the root cause of their issues, and that's multifactorial. It's individualized. But I mean, I believe a lot of things can be prevented and overcome just by basic fundamentals of health. Um, that's eating real food, optimizing your light environment throughout the day, and then at night getting the lights off at night. Kind of thinking back prehistoric times when it's dark, it was dark. When it was light, it was light. You were in the light, and when it was dark, it was dark. You were going to sleep. Um, and then incorporating stress management, dealing with whatever past emotional issues. Someone's in a job they hate. I mean, purpose is a massive deal, especially for people with ADHD. If you don't like what you're doing, you're in big trouble. So there's a lot to it. It's sitting down with the person and diving in.
How does somebody go about finding their purpose or connecting with something that would help them focus and get excited about it?
Well, I think I would just ask the question, what excites you? And people with ADHD, you have a lot of things that excite you, and you just got to pick one or two and try it out and get started on it. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but like if you picked up a book about bumblebees and you started reading it, you would get excited about it. And you'd be like, oh, wow, the black stripe, they've got that because of this and whatever. You just got to get started on something and see if you like it.
Rockets of the desire, testing, experimenting, seeing what brings joy, what doesn't, what brings energy, what drains you, this kind of concept.
Yeah, it's trying things out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, another big thing of that is, I mean, depending on where you're at in your life, what have you struggled with? Because oftentimes that's where you can make the biggest impact, because you've dealt with it personally and you can relate um, to the person. So, like, someone has ADHD, they can relate to someone who has ADHD, and maybe they work in ADHD or fill in the blank, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You've mentioned and have touched a little bit on traumas and these types of things. How does trauma show up in people's life?
Hmm.
And what if they're not aware of it?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people aren't aware of a lot of it. I mean, everyone's dealt with some kind of trauma. I mean, when you think of trauma, you think of like big time things. Maybe someone got hit by a train or something, but it doesn't have to be that serious or whatever. And everyone's trauma is individualized. I mean, it shows up in many different ways. It shows up physically. maybe how you react to someone, your partner. They ask you a question and uh, maybe they get really upset about just a normal question and a normal tone. It can manifest physically, pain. It can manifest, I mean, skin issues. I mean, it can manifest really in almost any way, really. There's so many different ways it can manifest.
Do you know, are there any particular strategies someone can do to kind of help maybe minimize or, overcome that trauma or those reactions, the negative mental health aspects of those experiences?
Yeah, I think it really just falls on the basis of the fundamentals of health. And then, diving in deeper with like EMDR, neurofeedback, um, going out in the middle of nowhere and sitting by a waterfall by yourself, just being there. I mean, getting out in nature in whatever way you like to do it, hiking, the beach, whatever, leaving your stressful job, getting out of that toxic environment, going to get a massage. I mean, the list is endless. I think there's multiple different ways. I mean, you typically would think, EMDR, neurofeedback, uh, talking through some of the issues, but there's so many other ways to do it, I believe. Um, I mean, ketamine, using ketamine therapy. I used to work with that when I was in clinicals and I saw good results with that. It's worth a try. Eating real food, you're sending good information to your body to help your body heal. Optimizing your light environment, exercise. I believe exercise can be therapy. What do you love to do? I mean, reading a book could be therapy as far as I'm concerned. If you love the book you're reading.
So you said at one point that you worked as a psychiatry nurse practitioner. What were those experiences like? What kind of clients did you work with or patients did you work with? What were some of the issues that you saw most often? And what were some of the solutions to that, if there were even?
I saw everything from anxiety and depression and ADHD to schizophrenia, bipolar personality disorders, um, a lot of addiction. The the best way I was able to help was through walking in the room, sitting down, shutting my mouth, and letting them talk. I mean, 90% of it was them telling me their story. That's what I found most effective. I'm not a big medication guy, and I'm very rare for the psychiatric practitioner. I would say I'm in the less than 1% entire world, probably. Um, Psychiatry relies on medication. I kind of joke with people that your feet could be cut off and it doesn't matter. They're going to focus on your brain and what pill to prescribe. Um, I may have gone off on a tangent there, but
No,
so,
that's
so
great.
what I noticed was the best way for me to help. And I'll be honest, I was nervous about like stepping into that role. Like I really wasn't that excited about it. And I kind of thought that I wasn't going to last long. I thought maybe, I mean, it's crazy to think about this now that I've, as I was thinking about this podcast, uh, my plan was to quit within 3 months. Because I didn't think that I was going to be able to help people in that model. But then I realized I was actually able to help a lot of people. They told me this, the staff, and a lot of it was, like I said, walking in and just listening. Because, I saw a lot of providers would not even see the patient or walk in and stand over the patient. But when you walk in and sit down and let them tell you their story, wow. I mean, it's profound. It's simple. And I believe that's partly my gift, but I mean, anyone can do that, right? Um, and then a lot of my other role was really just I was able to help in the way of prescribing less toxic medications, maybe helping people come off their medications safely, um, prescribing medications that be better than others as far as side effect profile and such. So of course that's helpful to them. And that's the main thing I think of. And then just educating them on holistic, natural ways to optimize your health. Like I would walk in the room and a lot of the times I would open the blinds and let some light in. Power of just letting some light in. Like if I could take the patients outside, wow, that would have been so cool. That would have been a lot of fun. Um, so educating them, and if they're open, diving more into that,
That's
whatever that may
amazing.
be.
You mentioned, let's go back. I heard you talk about addiction. I think a lot of people maybe struggle with these unhealthy habits, but they can express in, different ways in different people's lives. What were some of the common themes that you got to know with people by listening to them who were struggling with addiction, whether it was via substances, alcohol, drugs, or other things?
Hmm. Hmm. That's a good question.
Were there particular life experiences, commonalities between backgrounds, just overall lack of, healthy lifestyle habits? Were there deeper things that people, traumas? What seemed to come up?
Well, I'd say the most consistent thing would be, yeah, traumas and unhealthy lifestyles. And a lot of them just didn't really know what was actually healthy. I think a lot of people want to be healthy. And they maybe follow the advice that you hear on the, CNN or whatever. And that's not really the best advice. But other than that, I mean, addiction affects everyone, all ages. So I mean, I think the youngest age was 13 to like people in their 90s. I mean, there was addiction everywhere. And I think the most consistent part would have been traumas and then just being stuck in that. And people would quit for a while and then, end up going back to it. Maybe they're not in the right environment. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I have to think a little bit deeper on that.
Hmm.
Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, of course. Has there been or was there in your time any particular patients that you were able to help in a specific way that you recall or that, made an impact on their life in some way that stands out?
Yeah. The first one that I think of, I will never forget this woman. I got consulted on a woman who was having suicidal ideation. So she was having suicidal thoughts. So basically that means, she was thinking about killing herself. So, early on into walking into the room, I realized, she was having suicidal thoughts. A lot of times when I'm working with patients, I'll ask them to rate their anxiety and depression. And her anxiety and depression was 10 out of 10, which is the worst that it can be. And she was having suicidal thoughts. So I decided to do, let's see, what did I start with now? Oh, deep breathing. So I had her do, at the time, I had to do we did some 4-7-8 deep breathing together. So that's inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and then release for 8 seconds through pursed lips. And then after that exercise, I had her rate her anxiety and depression again. And this has been a while, so I don't remember exactly what she said, but my best guess it definitely decreased some, not all the way, but it was like 6 or 7, maybe. So after that, we did some gratitude. I asked her to tell me 3 things she's grateful for. And after that, I asked her the question again: how's your anxiety and depression on a scale from 1 to 10? And it decreased again. So maybe like 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly. And then we're going through the conversation. I'm asking her different things, and as I wrap up, I invite her to do some prayer, and she's open to that. So we did some prayer, and then after we wrapped up, I asked her again, where's her anxiety, depression? Is she having any suicidal thoughts? And she told me that she was not having any anxiety or depression or suicidal thoughts, and she felt relaxed and she felt great. So that was pretty profound to me, because during that whole time, I didn't give her medicate. Most providers would have been like, maybe they would have like, let me get some Xanax now and order it now. And here's some Xanax, or here's some Ativan IV push or whatever. But I mean, are you serious? Gratitude, deep breathing, prayer, you can take that with you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it works. But a lot of people don't, we're trained, medical providers are trained, and patients at this point are trained to take medication. Providers are trained to prescribe it. So
Oh, that's
that's what
amazing.
sticks out to me. And then there's one other one that sticks out, and that's a guy, an older man, I don't know, 60, 70 maybe, PTSD, anxiety, depression. I don't remember the exact conversation, but I just remember by the end of the conversation, he said, "You're the best therapist I've ever had." And I've not been trained as a therapist. I was trained as a, psychiatric nurse practitioner, which is trained to prescribe pills. And the reason I tell that story is to kind of circle back around to what we were talking about earlier. I mean, I just sat down and listened to him. That was it. It's not like I'm some expert therapist. So those are the two stories that really stick out
Mhm.
to me.
Wow, that sounds to me, it's like the power of connection. I ran into somebody this last summer who said that the cure for addiction is connection. And when I really sat back and thought about it, it's true. It's like you have this substance in your life that
Good.
becomes the relationship, the thing you can rely on, the thing that you can count on. But when you have those connections or people who care and really want to genuinely listen, that replaces that desire, that like, neurotransmitter rush that you get from this idea that you're going to have this when you've got that truly fulfilling connection with somebody. So that's amazing. Has there been anybody
That's
in your,
exactly what it is.
huh?
That's good. Yeah. I
Yeah,
said that's
right?
good. And that's one thing that I noticed. There's so many people, wow, that just are struggling, and they just want a real connection, as opposed to, uh, you know, Dr. Doolittle walking in and saying, "Here's a pill. See
Hmm.
you in, it's been 5 minutes. I gotta go
How can
talk
people
to."
build that in their lives? Like not needing to necessarily rely on therapists because maybe someone's like, I can't afford a therapist, or, going into the ER, into the psychiatric ward before it gets to that. How can people kind of create that connection in their life that they need to, not just survive, but to thrive?
That's a good question. I mean, stay close to nature and everything you do. I mean, just getting outside. I mean, I understand maybe buying organic food and stuff that can be, more expensive. If you can do that, that's great, eating real food. But the power of getting outside and taking a walk 3 times a day, 3 10-minute walks a day will make a profound difference in your life. Drinking clean water, eating real food, optimizing your light environment, getting the light in the morning, when it's dark, getting the light off, getting the lights off, getting the, phone away, the tablets away, that kind of stuff. Avoiding toxic relationships. I mean, you're going to have to get uncomfortable if you're one to not rely on a, medication. You're going to have to like do things differently, take action on healthy lifestyle,
And then if people wanted to create more connection, how could they do that? Connection
get
with
more connection.
people.
Yeah. I mean, pick up a hobby. I mean, it's simple. What do you love to do? Pick up some kind of hobby. Go to, join a church, volunteer. give back. Go give back and help with the homeless. Uh, there's all kinds of different groups you can. I mean, if you're on Facebook, you can join groups. There's apps so you can join different groups, right?
Hmm. Has there been anybody in your
I
life?
think
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say most people probably have somewhat of an idea in their mind, like what they would like to do, what kind of interest they have, and just follow that. Take action, get started, and see where it goes. Maybe you join a hunting group and then you're like, I hate this, but you meet someone who likes to play pickleball, and then you guys start playing pickleball. Whatever. I don't know. It's just getting started and getting it out there and just doing it.
So finding ways to be active with friends that can be social. So meet that, human connection need and the physical need. So going for walks in nature. I'm just thinking how you can hit all these stones at one time, right? Kind of double dip. So
Yeah.
best case scenario, make a friend, go for a walk in nature, do it when it's sunny outside, and then finish up with like a nice tea and a healthy meal, and boom, you've optimized brain health right there, huh?
You shock a lock at it. When it's dark, get the lights off.
I love it. So, has there been anybody, clearly you're a healthy guy, you're into fitness, you were able to use fitness as your way to kind of correct some of your issues with ADHD or your struggles with ADHD, different things. Was there anybody in your life that particularly influenced you or inspired you, or do you have people that you look up to for these types of things, or how did this come about for you?
I think it started with just I wanted to make my mom and dad proud, and I love them very much. Um, and then early on, wow, I would have loved to have had a mentor, but I didn't. I found that through books. And when I think of books and getting started, what really got me started, I think of two books, and it was one of them is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That made a profound difference on my life. I know it's not really related to ADHD and mental health. And then The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, I believe. Those are books that I often revisit. They're very, very good books. I know I read, I believe it was Driven to Distraction by Dr. Hallowell. I don't remember exactly what I got from that, but I would assume that I got some kind of inspiration that, I can move forward with ADHD. And then I remember the book Spark by Dr. John Ratey, Ratey, on the profound effect of exercise for your brain. And I believe Dr. Ratey and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, and Dr. Hallowell both had ADHD themselves. I know Dr. Hallowell does. Uh, and then from there, it just, wow, that was really exciting. Finding someone that had this much experience and wrote a book, and you could just read it in a day or two or a week or whatever. And then it was just, finding more books and finding more books and applying it. I wish I could just say that there was someone that I called and they told me what to do. It was really just a long journey of self-discovery and me figuring it out myself. And then within the past 2 years, I finally got connected with a mentor, which I'm very blessed to be connected with, Dr. Leland Stillman in the functional medicine realm. He's, a leading functional medicine doctor in the country. And through him, I've met Jim Laird, who's a wizard in the fitness space, 30 plus years of experience. And through Dr. Stillman, meeting Richard Brooke, who's been on Success Magazine. He's like a transformational coach, vision coach. And we're working with him. He's part of our team. So those three are great. So that's what I have now. But those mentors are within the past couple of years. So before that, it was reading books primarily.
Amazing. What are some routines that you have in the morning? Because you hear people talk all the time about morning routines, evening routines, and how essential they are to be effective in life and business. What are some of the routines that you have that you have already shared, or what do you do to help keep yourself optimized and performing at your best?
Yeah, great question. And I think everyone has some kind of routine, but is it helping you or is it hurting you? Um, for me right now, I've been in Naples, Florida for the past 2 years or so. Right now I'm in Knoxville, and what I've been doing is, and basically what I've been doing for the past couple of years or so is starting the day with some light. So right now I get in my infrared sauna and I do a Bible study. So I'm starting the day with Jesus and light. And I can't think of a better way to start the day than that. Um, so I get a good sweat. I'm in there for, 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm getting a good sweat. I'm boosting BDNF through just, the sauna, which is basically Miracle Pro for your brain. You can also boost that through exercise and such. And I'm spending time with the Lord. And from there, right after that, I'm taking a freezing as cold as you can go shower. And it's cold because it's like 9 degrees here in Knoxville, like overnight. It's pretty cold. So, and then I'm hydrating, eating real food, going to the gym. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did today. And then throughout the day, I'm taking walks. I think I took 2 today. Um, yeah, I mean,
And how do
optimizing.
you use the evening to set yourself up? Do you have any particular routines there?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, right now it gets dark by like 6, so it's about to be dark here. But so it gets dark. It's pretty early. But typically, when it gets dark, I try to start kind of winding down. I mean, probably by 7, 8-ish, try to start winding down. I'm putting on blue light blockers, blocking out the blue light. I mean, I kind of have a bad tendency to still be on my phone and do things, but I'll turn a red light filter on my phone, and then I'll have the blue light blockers. I'll have the lights off, excuse me. And at least by 9 or so, the lights are off. I maybe have like a red light bulb on and a lamp or something. And ideally, I'm listening to something like what with my phone across the room, or um, I'm reading a book, and a book like a real book, not on your phone. And then that's kind of how I wind down. If I need an extra little boost, maybe I'll take like a warm shower or something.
That's,
So it's not sexy.
but it's effective. I know
Effective.
because,
I
yeah.
think being weird is the new awesome, as far as I'm concerned, because you feel great.
Hmm. Agree.
That's all
As
about.
somebody who also has ADHD, has struggled with focus, has gotten really into routines and these types of things, I use a lot of the practices and strategies that you use also. And it's also, I'm a performance coach just like you with your clients. Work
Yeah,
with these because it's the small things that add up long term, right, to big results. So if you just show
compound
up
effect.
differently
Absolutely.
every day, feeling differently, like your whole life is going to be different. Everything changes. So where are you at right now in
That's
your
perfect.
journey? You're starting a business, have the business. I know you're in transition. Tell us a bit about that, what
Yeah.
your mindset is to be able to, bring yourself to take, make a transition and take those steps. What does that look like for you?
Hmm. Yes, building a business. That's my main focus right now. Um, and then, it's really just I'm kind of feeling things out, and I'm going to follow God on what the rest of it is. My what I I'm loving my lifestyle right now because I have complete time freedom. Like I said, today I woke up, did a 30-minute sauna session, I had breakfast, went to work out, came home, worked on some projects. I'm doing this podcast. And then I'm able to, I feel like I'm able to help people in a bigger way, make a bigger impact. I can focus on creating content. And, when I was working in the hospital, I might see 15 clients in a day, but through writing books or um, social media, you can reach a lot more people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what goal is, to make a bigger impact. Um, But I've got a lot of opportunities. I mean, there's some travel assignments that I could accept. I could travel the country and serve patients in person, and that's something I'm thinking about. I'm working on a men's health program with Dr. Leland Stillman, and then I'm highly considering opening up my own practice or a coaching practice, and that's fresh, hot off the press. So a lot of opportunities to think about.
Absolutely. 100%. If you were able to, if someone was listening to this and they wanted to make a change, or, they felt like they were struggling with addiction, or, with ADHD or some mental health issues, or they just weren't, they wanted to make a change, what would you, what advice would you give them to encourage them, nudge them, help them jump and embrace that journey, knowing it's not easy, right? But necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that you can do it. I believe in you. I mean, I was at a time in my life that, wow. I mean, to think about where I'm at now, I never would have believed that I could have been doing some of the things I'm doing now and been so optimal as far as my cognitive health and just how I feel. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, growing up with ADHD and being over medicated and dealing with anxiety and being on one medication, and then here's another one, depression and sleep issues, and not having to rely on any of those medications anymore, and being able to finish up my nurse practitioner program without those medications that I relied on for a long time and was dependent on. And for the longest time, I felt like I had to have them to be successful in school, even though it really screwed up my health and um, how I felt and everything. So, I mean, the main thing is just taking action. I mean, if you do your shoulds, there's that saying, stop shooting on yourself. Turn those shoulds into musts and just take action, get started, dive deep into yourself, know that self. If you can build a relationship with God, that's going to make a profound impact, and just get started.
Awesome.
So,
So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, where could they find you?
yeah, the best way to find me is Instagram, real Ryan Hughes. Send me a message, follow along.
Awesome. Okay, Ryan. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, Project Ultimate Lifers. We look forward to seeing you next time.